So now may I request our Professor Dr. P.K. Devan sir to introduce our second session resource person, Dr. Dipnakar Debna from IIT Kharagpur. Devan sir, please sir.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
Thank you. Let me join. Sir has come.
Yes, sir, sir has come, sir.
Sir, good morning, sir. Good morning, participants. Good morning, Professor. It's my pleasure and privilege to introduce the resource person to the participants. Dr. Deepankar Debnath, Assistant Professor, EEE Department, IIT Kharagpur, is the resource person for this session. Prior to joining IIT Kharagpur, Professor has worked as Assistant Professor in IIT Indore and as a Research Associate at IIT Bombay, both at the domain of Electrical Engineering Department. He was conferred with a PhD degree along with the excellence in PhD thesis work from the Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay in the year 2015 for studies in power electronics and power systems. He has 6 consecutive inclusions in top teaching feedback list of IIT Kharagpur. He cleared GET in 2 branches, Electronics and Communication in 2009 and Electrical Engineering in 2011. He is selected as Best Teaching Assistant during PhD awarded by EEE Department, IIT Bombay. His research interest includes design of integrated power electronic converter topologies, design of solar photovoltaic based standalone off-grid systems for rural areas, multifunctional inverter for grid integration of renewable energy sources, study of microgrid, motor and motor controller design for electric vehicles, etc. So it is our honor and privilege to have such eminent personality with us to deliver the lecture on electric vehicles and opportunity for India. Now I request Dr. Deepan Kumar Debnath to take over the session. Please, sir.
Hi, good morning to all of you. Professor Devan, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Audible, sir. Please. Yes, sir.
Sure. And also confirm whether my video is on.
Yes, sir. It's clear, sir.
Okay, yeah. So let me just talk to the participants for 2-3 minutes and then I'll go to the main session and maybe there I'll turn off the video to save the bandwidth. Very good morning to all of you. It is a privilege for me to have this session and interacting with you all. If time permits, I would like to know what is the topic of your research interest, etc. But I'm not sure whether time will allow. But let me extend my sincere invitation to all of you. If you happen to visit IIT Kharagpur or nearby area due to any of your work, please do visit our laboratories. And we are actively working on this electric vehicle segment, different areas, battery management system, battery charger, motor controller, design of motor, and so on. So if we have common area of interest, right? Please, you can always write to us and visit our lab, and maybe someday we can form a good collaboration, and together we can do something better. So with this sincere invitation, let me try to share my slide and see whether you can clearly check it. Yeah, please can you confirm whether my slide is up?
Yes, sir, visible, sir.
Okay. So to save the bandwidth, I'll turn off my video for time being. Clearly. Yeah, okay, let me continue on this and yeah, just give me a minute. Okay, so please, I'm trying to write welcome in my slide, and let me know whether it is visible so that when I'll be writing, you'll be able to see it. So at the top back side, I'm trying to write welcome. Please confirm whether you can see it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Professor. So in this particular talk, I'll be discussing few interesting challenges and research opportunities that someone can take up for doing research and other activities. And these are the agendas that I'll be going through. Brief history of automobiles, and then electric vehicle advantages, disadvantages. What are the different types of vehicle? Most of this, I believe, you are already familiar with. So I'll quickly skip through these contents, and I'll also share my slides with you if you want. So you need not note down anything and just listen. And if you have any doubt in between, please stop me. Do not wait for the last minute so that we can have a clear discussion then and there. I'll also take you to market survey of commercially available electric vehicles so that you can get a very clear picture of which motor is mostly being used and what are the typical motor controllers that are being used, what is the control philosophy, etc. And I'll talk about mainly focusing on the challenges and opportunities part. And also, if time permits, some interesting electric vehicle concept, for example, like this one or this kind of vehicle or this dynamic wireless charging. So those topics I'll try to go through as quickly as possible, and I'll spend some time there. I hope you will enjoy this journey with me. Yeah, so wishing you a happy journey. Now, by the term electric vehicle, I am referring to any kind of vehicle which depends on one or more electric motors for their propulsion. It could be permanent magnet synchronous motor or induction motor, and it should have portable energy storage. And of course, one example could be Tata Nexon EV that you are seeing, or several electric two-wheeler and three-wheeler are already in Indian market. So those are some of the examples. Now, if you look at the history of automobiles, initially you will see electric vehicle had a good start, right, during this time period. But then actually these gasoline-based vehicles took over, and now we are saying again that electric vehicle technology is coming up, and there are several countries which want to convert the transportation sector entirely to electrified vehicles, maybe by 2030, 2050. Those informations I'll share at the later part also. And since the future is going in this direction, and also the technology is not very mature yet, so still there are a lot of challenges, and hence there exists a good set of opportunities that we can take up. I'll skip through the slides. As I said, I'll be sharing you the slides. So here I just try to talk about advantage, disadvantage of electric vehicles. Nothing great there. So we'll just share those data and you can go through it later part if you wish. And let me spend some time on different type of electric vehicles so that when I talk about them in later part, our terminologies matches. So first one is battery electric vehicle, and as the name suggests, it entirely relies on the energy stored in battery, right? So we have battery, it is being charged from external or onboard charger, and then using that stored energy, we'll be driving an electric motor, and that will finally give attractive force to the vehicle. Another category is hybrid electric vehicle, where in addition to the battery, we have gasoline based storage, or it can be other storage also. For example, I can have a petrol, diesel, or maybe CNG, right? And one interesting point you need to know is that in this HEV category, the battery is not externally charged. It is only charged during regenerative braking. So this is the common level we mentioned. And if you want to charge the battery from external world also, but still you want to get the benefit of hybrid vehicle, so you have plug-in hybrid vehicle. So this term plug-in basically indicates you can charge the battery from external plug or using external power supply. It can also charge the battery during regenerative braking. And also it has other source of energy, petrol, diesel, etc. So again, some example I mentioned. And one more technology that is not popular yet due to its higher initial cost, but is slowly coming up, that is fuel cell electric vehicle. So this kind of vehicle, they also have a battery. And in addition, there is a device called fuel cell. It takes hydrogen as input and oxygen from the environment and gives you electricity plus water. And using the electricity, we can charge the battery or we can directly feed the motor. And as of now, this production of hydrogen is on the much costlier side, but maybe down the line with greater adoption, we'll see that these fuel cell electric vehicles are gaining interest. And some of the commercial fuel cell electric vehicle already running in markets, this Toyota Mirai, Honda Clarity, and two-wheeler is also trying to enter into the market, but due to higher cost, they are not yet popular. So to just summarize, in the battery electric vehicle, we'll be charging the battery from external world. In plug-in hybrid vehicle, we have battery again charged from the external power supply, and also we have fuel cell. We have a petrol or diesel kind of solution, and we have fuel cell where we don't have any petrol or diesel. We'll be having a hydrogen supply. And based on how you are integrating them together, you can classify these hybrid electric vehicles or plug-in hybrid electric vehicle in this segment. One is very simplistic solution. It is known as series hybrid. So basically what we are doing, we have a battery. And how do I charge the battery? I can charge from external supply or I can charge from the IC engine. What is IC engine? It is internal combustion engine, which you see in regular commercial vehicles. Like the petrol diesel car that you run, you use for commute everyday life. Mostly they will be using this IC engine, and using the IC engine, it will give you mechanical power. So that using mechanical power, you feed it to a generator, get the electric power, and charge the battery. And using the battery, you drive a motor and finally give torque to the wheel. Give final mechanical power again to the wheel. So this is, as you can see, the power is flowing in the series direction, and that's why you are calling it series hybrid. Another option could be the parallel hybrid. So you have engine which is directly giving power to the axle, and also in parallel to that you have a motor which is providing power to the axle. So both of them are working in parallel. And another combination could be that you have a series parallel kind of solution. So all this solution has their advantages and disadvantages, and especially the energy management. So if I ask you that you have two different sources, how much torque should be generated by each of them? What should be their share of energy at different operating conditions? So how do you optimize them? That itself is a good research area to work on. How do you optimize the regenerative braking or mechanical braking? How do you split them? How do you split the energy or torque distribution? So those things are yet still an interesting area to work. And they have a lot of complexity also. And based on the battery side and capability, this hybrid electric vehicle can be divided into three categories. Again, I'm skipping this. These are very straightforward. I'll be sharing you the slide. And I'll quickly introduce you to the major subsystem. Again, just to make ourselves conversant with the terminology so that it helps me in the later part. So as we know, in electric vehicle, finally, we are now here talking about all electric vehicle or battery electric vehicle. It is not hybrid. So I have a AC motor. Mostly all the electric vehicles, they use AC motor. I'll show you some data shortly. So we have this AC motor, and we have energy stored in battery, which is DC. So you need DC to AC converter to convert DC energy stored in battery to the AC energy that is required by motor. And how do you control this unit, which we call motor controller unit, MCU, motor control unit. So it will take command from the driver in terms of acceleration or the throttle input and brake input. So based on this mechanical input, there will be a kind of electronic controller which will convert this mechanical input to equivalent electronic input, which will be given to your motor controller unit, which is basically a power electronic converter that will convert DC to AC, and using that our motor will run. And also, how do I charge the battery? We'll definitely have a battery charger, which will charge the battery from external power supply. And to manage this energy in the battery, we need energy management unit. Sometimes it is also called BMS, battery management unit. Most of the energy stored in the battery will go towards the driving the motor, but some of them will also go for catering auxiliary loads. What do you mean by auxiliary load? For example, if you see the power steering, nowadays most of the vehicles have power steering. So basically they have a small BLDC motor, and using that the steering is rotated by taking manual command and amplifying it. Then you have temperature control unit. Basically, you'll be having air conditioning system in your car. Then there will be music systems, right? Maybe lights. So those are auxiliary loads that should also come from the battery. So this diagram shows you different efficiency part involved in different of this component. For example, battery to motor, I need a power electronic converter. Typically that has an efficiency of this range. So you can see there is still scope for improvement. If you can use a better device, better converter topology, better control, you can still improve on the efficiency. You can improve on the motor design and motor efficiency. On the battery charger, you can do some more. So these are all area to where we can work on, right? Now, if I ask you, in a conventional vehicle that we see mostly in the road, generally let us talk about a petrol fed vehicle. So I'll have petrol tank, and the energy stored in petrol that I have to convert into mechanical energy to give it to the wheel of the vehicle so that it can move forward or backward as per my requirement. So what are exactly there in between this petrol tank and the wheel? Let's try to quickly understand that. So that will have different part, and this terminology propulsion, it is basically the action of driving or pushing forward. So for moving the vehicle, we need this propulsion, and powertrain system is basically you have petrol or battery energy. You need to convert them into mechanical energy to give it to your wheel, right, for propulsion. So what are there? Let us try to understand in between your petrol tank and the wheel. Similarly, between the battery and the wheel, right? So in commercial IC engine based vehicles, you will have a petrol tank definitely. Then there will be an IC engine, and in between there will be a clutch. Then this will be the transmission unit. Basically, it will have those gear arrangements. Then this part is known as drive shaft. This box is differential. And finally, through those axles, it is connected to the wheels. So let us quickly try to get a better view. So as I said, first we'll have engine, and we'll have some gear changing mechanism in the transmission part. So when I want to change the gear, I want to disengage my engine from the gear so that I can have smooth transition and I can reduce mechanical wear and tear kind of problems. So there will be a clutch in between. Okay. Most of the present days are having a automated manual transmission, sometimes a more complex continuous variable transmission. So where you can have infinite number of gears, very smooth transition is possible. So these are some of the components that are required in the powertrain of an IC engine vehicle. Now quickly we'll try to understand why do we need a gear and whether it is a good for electric vehicle or not. So this particular figure shows you how the torque speed curve of a traction load looks like. So how do you visualize it? Just assume that there is a vehicle standing on a flat road, maybe a small vehicle, and you want to make the vehicle run using your energy, not by motor or IC engine. So you have to push the vehicle. So first you'll be giving a hard push because it is already in rest. You need higher amount of force to make it start rotating, right, or moving forward. And once the vehicle picks up little bit of speed, you will see that the push requirement comes down. It has already gained the momentum. It has overcome initial friction. So it will now require lesser amount of torque or force. But again, at higher speed, it will need more torque because it has to overcome aerodynamic drag. So this is how typical torque speed or force speed diagram will look like for a typical traction drive excluding gravity. So what is the summary? At lower speed or at the beginning, we need high torque or high force to start the vehicle. As the speed builds up, I need lesser amount of torque, and again at very high speed, I need the torque requirement goes up. Maybe it goes up. So now for every vehicle, there will be a speed limit, right? It cannot give you thousands of kilometers or no. There will be always definitely speed limit. So let's say my vehicle is typically having a speed limit of something like this. So this is how my powertrain should be capable of giving this kind of behavior. Now let us try to see how IC engine is capable of. Now you know in a vehicle there are several gears, right? And typically fourth gear is close to a gear ratio of 1 in most of the cases. So as if there is no torque or speed multiplication. Whatever is coming from your IC engine, it is giving directly to the wheels. So this is how the torque speed curve looks like for a typical IC engine. And what you can see that at lower speed, it cannot give you high torque, which is required, right? So what you do, you employ different gears so that if you put a first gear, it gives you more torque but less speed. Eventually, power has to be equal. So power is torque into speed. So if I increase torque, my speed has to come down because power has to be constant. So at lower speed, what we do, we put the vehicle in first gear so that it can give me higher torque. And once the speed builds up, I increase the gear so that it gives me higher speed because at high speed, I don't need much of the torque. Now, so that is the reason that we need different set of gears. Now look at the torque speed characteristics or capability of a motor, which is dotted line. So what you see, it has inherently has this kind of torque speed characteristics, which we need for vehicle, right? So initially it can give you high torque, and later on as speed develops, I can have lower torque. So this quite matches with our requirement. You can see here, and that is why you will see in most of the electric vehicles, they are generally a constant gear kind of drive. They will have a fixed gear. They don't need variable gear, and what maybe just one set of gear, maybe typically 10 to 12 ratio of gear, and that is good enough because this shape is already matching with your vehicle requirement. And since it is already a fixed gear, you don't need clutch also, right? Because you don't need to change gear, so requirement of clutch is avoided. And that is one of the main benefit of electric vehicles. As a result, the powertrains are most quite efficient in electric vehicles, and overall efficiency is also better than IC engine type of vehicles. This slide I'll quickly skip. Here I try to show you the most popular electrified vehicle rather is basically you see in Indian market. Mostly this is this three-wheeler, we call it Toto. This is mostly available, and I'm sure most of you already have had a ride on this vehicle. So where the batteries, motor, etc. is mounted, you can open up and you can study them. What are their basic specifications? So all these things I've mentioned, you can study later on if you are interested. And these are some of the vehicles that are available in Indian market, and which is a little bit of upcoming. Right. So what we understood till now is that we understood the powertrain. In IC engine based vehicles, I'll have this IC engine followed by clutch, followed by those transmission, right? Then drive axle, differential drive, etc. For electric vehicle, I won't have any IC engine. Basically, we'll have a motor. We don't need clutch. We may need a fixed gear, may or may not. It can also be avoided sometimes. And rest of the things are quite similar. I need a drive shaft, differential. Okay. So if I ask you, this motor is one of the very key component in electric vehicle, and it has to be fed from a battery. So this is a question for all of you. What do you think? Which is the most popular motor that is being used in electric vehicle? What will be your answer? Which motor is mostly used in electric vehicles? Can anyone quickly unmute your mic and respond?
BLDC.
Okay, one answer I've got BLDC. Anything else?
Someone from KIT, IPM SM.
IPMSM, sorry. Yeah, IPMSM. Anything else?
And IM also.
Okay, induction motor. Anything else? Okay, so let us see, right? Most of you have already got the correct answer. I got one DC series motor. No, DC series motor not at all used. Now in most modern vehicles, it is not at all used. Brushless DC motor. Okay, brushless DC motor is used only when power rating is typically less than 5 kilowatt. So in this, like example, this one, you'll see BLDC. Sorry, excuse me. So let me quickly take you to the market survey. So here you can see permanent magnet synchronous motor is the number one choice. So it is basically a synchronous motor having a permanent magnet on the rotor. It is not wound field, which we study conventionally. Basically, it is a permanent magnet. And as some of you already clearly mentioned, generally the interior permanent magnet is mostly used. Okay. Second choice is induction motor, but slowly they are also getting obsolete in electric vehicle. So first choice is PMSM. Second choice is induction motor as of now, but slowly it is also losing traction. BLDC is generally used for very low power. I'll show you in shortly. Basically for two-wheeler, three-wheeler, those application BLDCs are used when power rating is less than 5 kilowatt. Apart from that, in four-wheeler, BLDC is very rarely used. You won't see any. DC motor is not at all used. Okay. So you can see this BLDC, these are actually for two-wheeler or three-wheeler. But these are the present trend. Can any one of you tell me what do you think where the future is, or maybe the recent research is heading? Which motor and why? Do you still think PMSM is the most hot topic? Okay, one answer I got SRM. Anything else? Any other answer? Or you think PMSM is still the most favorite? Induction motor, okay. Okay, so let me give you my understanding of working this in this area. PMSM is still the most favorite one because it is very compact, it gives very good efficiency. But the problem with PMSM is the magnet, the permanent magnet, right? Any idea which permanent magnet is used in this kind of motor and where are they found? Neodymium, yes. One answer we got neodymium. Any other answer? Okay, China, right. Actually, in China, you will get around 95%. Mostly remaining part you will get in Brazil. So NdFeB, this is alloy basically, and this is most popularly used. Another is samarium cobalt. These are two mostly used magnet. These are known as rare earth magnet, rare earth material based magnet, and these are available mostly in China and Brazil. So you can understand for other countries it is a big problem, right? If China doesn't give you supply, then your motor is stopped. So that's why the research is going on mostly trying to shift towards reluctance motors. Again, this is a challenge and opportunity I'm just trying to share. SRM is switched reluctance motor. Another one is SYNRM. It is synchronous reluctance motor. One is synchronous, another is switched. Okay. The recent model of Tesla initially they started with induction motor, then they shifted to permanent magnet, one or two. But recently, what they came up with this synchronous reluctance motor, and with a little bit of permanent magnet into it. So they call it PMA SYNRM. So PM for permanent magnet, A for assisted, and synchronous reluctance motor. So this is one of the very interesting motor that are being researched on. You have a lot of still some more, you can do some work on this. Very interesting motor. And some sort of flux switching motor that is also people are doing. Then instead of whatever motor we study in our UG level course, these are all radially distributed motor flux. Sorry, there is some problem with the pen. But present, one more interesting area where research is going is axial flux motor. So all motor we studied in our UG level, typically these are radial, but now some interesting motor based on axial flux direction is also becoming a good opportunity for research. All right. So here is the summary for different vehicles, what you use. And as I said, these two seems to be gaining interest. Problem with SRM, switched reluctance motor, is that they're high torque ripple. And that's why they are not very good for electric vehicle kind of application, right? So synchronous reluctance seems to be a quite favorite option for several researchers, but still this area is still open. There is no conclusion yet. No commercial, very few commercial applications have come up. So still this area is good for research. So in summary, what motor you see is basically all of them mostly three-phase motor. So they need three-phase power supply, and you have battery which is DC. So you need a three-phase DC to AC converter. And in this converter itself, there are several challenges. Presently, most of the research are based on silicon-based devices, silicon IGBT, silicon MOSFET, right? But present research trend is going towards wide bandgap devices, which are gallium nitride, silicon carbide. Basically, GaN can be thought of as a replacement of MOSFET, and silicon is basically silicon carbide devices are targeting the IGBT vendor. So instead of silicon, basically you are using this different semiconductor technology, and these devices have some benefit. They have a lower loss, lower size, better thermal distribution, and so on. So this is again a very interesting area to do research on this wide bandgap devices. This can, for example, this GaN, it can switch in megahertz frequency, right, which is typically not done with silicon devices. So that opens up a new area of research. How do you design your magnetics at such a high frequency? How do you design your driver circuit? How do you tackle EMI, EMC issues at such a very high frequency? All these things are a very challenging research area to work on. Let me skip through this motor controller. here I wanted to show you how a motor controller looks for electric vehicle. So these figures are for three-wheeler. That one three-wheeler I showed you in one of the slides. So if you open up this motor controller unit, you will see this kind of inside view. And this is for a commercial four-wheeler. I cannot disclose the name due to some NDA issues, but you can understand this is for a higher power rating motor controller unit for a four-wheeler vehicle. So till now, I tried to talk more on the motor and the motor controller. Quickly, I touch upon the battery charger, and then we will talk about different challenges. And there, I need your help also. So keep on thinking what are the challenge that you think are coming up, and we'll discuss, right? And then I'll share you what I think about the challenges, right? So in the meantime, I give you a small task, right? And don't take it seriously, but still, let's try to understand this. Please cooperate with me. It is not an exam, of course. So let's say I give you a task that you design a battery charger for me for an electric vehicle application. Okay, you are an engineer and or you're a professor, research scholar. So I give you a task that you please design a battery charger for me. What is the condition? I must use it for my domestic use. So I let's say I have a parking lot and using my power supply in my home, I want to charge it. So what can be the maximum power rating of this battery charger in kilowatt? How much, what is the maximum you can design me? Remember, note this point, it is for domestic use. I have to use in my home. It is not industry or some other use. So is it like 2 kilowatt, 10 kilowatt, 50 kilowatt? Try to understand this, and from that we'll get an interesting point. Why it takes so much time for a charger to start. Okay, one answer is 3.5 kilowatt. Okay, 3 kilowatt. Okay, sometime I saw a 20 kilowatt answer also. And in one case, I got the explanation also, right? Anyone would like to give a different answer? Please type in or unmute your mic and tell whatever is comfortable to you. Okay, so let me go through it. The power supply we have in domestic use is 230 volt, right? And the plug or socket we have in our home, these are maximum rated for 15 ampere or 16 ampere, right? So basically in our home, we have two kinds of sockets. One is 5 ampere, which you use for your table fan, computer power supply, etc. And a higher rated socket you use for your refrigerator, your what do you say, maybe your microwave, right? Or the air conditioner. There you use this socket actually, but you don't have more than this rating. So this is the maximum current you are supposed to draw from your wall, right? From your power socket. And this is typically the voltage rating. So what is the power I can have? Remember, we are talking about watt, which is useful power. So I should multiply it with power factor. So maximum I can get is 230 in a regular healthy condition into 15 or 16 and power factor. Power factor is very important because in battery charger, we are going to use a AC-DC converter. If you use a simple diode-based rectifier, your power factor could be around 0.8, 0.7 in that zone. So this will be much lesser. That's why we talk about a unity power factor rectifier. It is a special kind of rectifier which converts AC to DC, okay? But it ensures power factor close to 1 because I need to maximize this number. So this is the maximum power you can draw from your socket. So is this the final answer? How much with what I can charge my battery? No, because this is the input power, right? I need to consider about output power. Any system will have losses, definitely. So I have AC, DC converter, then the battery, right? And here is my AC input. So maximum input I can have 3450 typically. And then this AC to DC converter may have a efficiency of how much? Maybe 90%. So you know what is the maximum output power you can get. And generally, whatever equipment you design, you rate them always with respect to how much they can deliver, not how much they can take. So their power rating could be maximum 3 to 3.3 kilowatt. This is the power rating. You cannot go beyond that because your socket will burn. Okay. Now let's try to understand if this is my maximum rating, how long I'll take to charge a car like Tata Nexon EV. Why I am repeatedly talking about Tata Nexon EV is this is the most selling car in Indian market, right? And I myself has driven this car and it was awesome. Okay, so I'm not promoting Tata in any way. Only reason is that it is the most selling car in India and I personally has driven it and I have a very positive feedback about it. And that is the reason I'm sharing. It's nothing related to promotion. So Tata Nexon EV, any idea what is the battery pack used by Tata Nexon EV? Can anyone tell? What is your idea? In kilowatt hour, what will be the capacity? Without Googling, of course. Any idea? You can come up with any number, right? There is no mark or grade involved. 150 kilowatt hour. Okay, one answer I got. Any other answer? Don't know, sir. Fair enough. I'm talking about the power rating, okay, in kilowatt hour. Okay, let me give you the answer. You can verify it later. It is 30.2 kilowatt hour. Okay. So now you can calculate how long it will take to charge, right? So 30.2 kilowatt hour by maximum say 3 kilowatt if I assume on the safer side. Or 3.3 you can do just to make calculation easier. Let us make 30 and 3. So roughly 10 hours. So do you think this number is correct? Or am I doing any mistake? You need to understand this. Huh? Please bear with me for 2 more minutes. Am I correct or am I doing any mistake? Okay. If you are not working in this area, it will be difficult. So always remember, you are using 1C rate. I did not made any. Okay. For lithium ion, it can be still done, though C/5 could be a better option. But let me tell you some other points also. You are correct on this. Whenever this battery pack is mentioned, 30.2 kilowatt, do you really think you can discharge the battery and you can get all this energy? Can you discharge the battery to 0 SOC? No, right? There is a concept called depth of discharge. You cannot completely discharge the battery. Lithium ion battery, maybe you can discharge up to 80% or 90%. So even though this is the capacity, you cannot fully utilize it. You can utilize this amount of this much of typically. Okay. So actually you need to charge maybe around 28 kilowatt hour or something, and based on the exact battery which you are using. Then also when you are charging the battery, we follow two profiles. One is known as constant current, another is known as constant voltage. Initially we charge with a constant current, which could be 1C or C/2, depending on the type of battery that you are using. By C, I mean the ampere hour rating. C is basically ampere hour rating of the battery. Okay, so typically we charge with constant current at the beginning, and then after SOC has reached around maybe 90%, you go to CV mode. So here, this division assumes that it is always charged with CC mode, which is not correct. But this number is close to what you will get. Typically, Tata Nexon EV will take around 8 to 9 hours to completely charge in your home. If you go to a fast charging station, that is a different story. Okay, so this is one of the challenge you can understand that battery charging takes quite a long time. So let me quickly skip on this technical things too much. Let us. And some of the auxiliary load I told you, right? I have noted down some auxiliary load, how much they consume, so that if you are interested, you can study. there's no point of discussion. Okay, so what is the time now? It is 12:30. I still have around 45 minutes. I'll be stopping by 1:15. Yeah. So till now we understood few points. Of course, it is very difficult to convey all this point in half an hour. But whatever we discuss and whatever you have studied in your free time or as per your interest, what do you think? What are the present challenges with electric vehicle? Can you just unmute or type in the chat box so that I can note one by one, and then we'll discuss, right? And then I'll also share you what I think about range. Okay, one answer I got, range is limited. Okay, challenges is range. Anything else? Materials import. Yeah. For example, that permanent magnet has to be imported. Charging time. One said torque. In case I am not writing your point, you have to type it again. Huh? Charging infrastructure. Thermal management. Okay. Anything else? Weight of battery. Yeah. Energy management. Okay. Anything else? Starting in upward slope. That is basically your torque requirement. You need high torque. Battery cost. Yes. Okay. Anything else? Space required for battery. Okay. Most of them are related to battery. Overall cost. Okay. Anything else? Thermal runaway during discharge. Okay. Typically, most of them will have a battery management system, but yeah, that area is an speed. Speed is not very limited thing. Decent controller efficiency. Okay. Anything else? Structural stability of Indian road. Electricity load on present bill. Okay. Load on grid. Road condition. Okay. Anything else? Good. We are getting so many inputs and different agendas. Right. So I'll come back to it later. If you have any other point, I'll note down so that we'll see together, right? So let me overall weight of EV. Overall weight of EV generally they try to make lesser than commercial IC engine vehicle, but still battery weight is a challenge, right? Okay. Overheating during charging, yeah. Heating during charging. Yeah. So later on, I'll look at the chat box in case. Yeah. So time required to charge, we already noted this charging time. Okay. Later on, I'll come back to the chat section and I'll try to note down some more. So this is from the audience side, from the participants. Yeah, one very important point came up, participants. Recycling of battery, very, very important. Okay. Right. Very good. I'm happy that you are responding. And so let me quickly go through some of the things which I plan to discuss, and maybe later on in the last 15 minutes we'll have a discussion, right? So first point to my mind is one of them is drivetrain is not a mature technology. This IC engine based vehicle you see, this transmission, clutch, everything is quite mature. These are for quite ages now. But for the electric vehicle, it is not very mature technology and there is still some scope for improvement. So let me try to take you on that. So what I mean by this is on what you can do in the drivetrain. So first, just look at this. Present day, what we have is solution. I have the wheel. It can be front wheel or rear wheel. Again, this you can think about in which vehicle I should use a front wheel drive, in which type of vehicle I should use a rear wheel drive. Okay, this is a question to you. Maybe free time you can think about. So I have the wheel. I have the differential, and in case you are not familiar why we need differential is that think about it. If I have a wheel like this, two wheels on both the side, if I directly mount my motor in it, then both the wheel must rotate at the same speed because I have mounted the motor directly on the axle. Now when I want to take turn, right, one wheel must rotate at different speed than the other. The outer wheel must rotate higher distance, right, greater distance. So I cannot directly mount my motor on the drive wheel, right? So I need a device which can split the torque between two wheels as per requirement, so that two wheels can rotate at different speed when I need, right? So that is one of the requirement of this differential. And then I have motor, I have a gearbox, and this is the clutch. So this is a typical configuration. Next, if I can design my motor such that it can give me wide range of speed, wide range of torque, then I can eliminate the gear or I can use a fixed gear. What is the advantage? Clutch is eliminated, right? So this is a different configuration. Next is instead of putting them in a separate entity, can I design an integrated solution? Right? So I have a motor, gear, and differential in a single package, and I sell it as a single package. So it will reduce space requirement, it will reduce the weight, right? It will be complicated, but still there is opportunity, right? This is an interesting area to work. So this is one, it can be a different drivetrain. Next is I need differential because I have a single motor, right? So why can't I have two motors? Two motor and using those two motor, yeah, right. I am going to that direction also. One of the participants said, why not have motor, right? So I have a motor, I have a fixed gear, I mount them on the wheel, right, individually. So differential is eliminated. So this is one configuration. Next, instead of putting everything outside the wheel, can I mount everything on the wheel, right? That is an hub motor kind of solution. But still I have a gear. Next solution, can I completely eliminate the gear and put my motor inside the wheel? And I can control the wheel accordingly, right? So I can have a motor here also. If it is a very heavy vehicle, I can have a motor here. So just imagine this situation. You have a four-wheeler and you have a motor on every wheel, okay? So motor rating can be reduced because they will be working together. But how do you control this? When you're taking left turn, what should be the speed on all the wheels? How much torque distribution you want to do? All this, okay? So that itself is a very, very challenging work. Challenging research opportunity. Right? So this is known as all-wheel drive. And how do you do it? So this is what I meant by the drivetrain configuration is not very mature enough, right? You can still play with a lot of things. Then the motor controller unit, as some of you said, it is not very efficient. And also it depends on so many electronic components, right? So you have to do a lot of protection so that you can avoid fault. You can avoid risk of striking somewhere which may not be safe. Let's say terrorist prone area. If your motor controller got damaged, it will be a problem, right? So you have to give so many protection, and this itself is a very, very interesting area to work on, especially this topic. Fault tolerant drive is a very recent trending topic for electric vehicle and functional safety. So you can search about this topic, and if you're interested, I'm sure you'll get a lot of research opportunities here itself. Then, as one of you said, why can't I use a hub motor? One of the problem with hub motor is, assume that you are driving an electric vehicle and you have a gadda, right? In Hindi we call it gadda, or maybe a path hole, right? Where it is already having a lot of water due to rain, let's say. So your hub motor will be going into that gadda or path hole, and it will be drenched, right? It will be submerged into the water for some time. And electric motor is there. If water goes inside the electric motor, it may get damaged, right? So you have to protect it from this kind of situation. The battery you have to protect from water, right? If water goes inside your battery, your motor controller, then there is a problem. So this ingress protection is very, very important. So this is known as IP protection, ingress protection. First number is basically protection from solid. So let's say your, as I showed you in three-wheeler, motor is actually kept outside, right? If you have a hub motor, the motor will be kept outside your vehicle body. What I'm saying is exposed to the environment, right? So it will face a lot of dust, then maybe it will rub with some other material sometime if you're not driving properly. So many harsh conditions it will encounter. So how it is protected from them? That is this number 6, first number. And second number is how it is protected from water. Okay. So you'll see that most of these vehicles have IP67 protection. What does it mean? It is dust proof. It can work in dusty environment outside your vehicle body, exposed to environment. And then what is 7? You see, even if your equipment, if product goes inside water for some time, still it will be able to operate later on, right? So that is, let's say your hub motor goes inside water for some time, but then you come to a healthy road, it is again okay for operation. So this kind of protections are very important and is still a good challenge for electric vehicles. So here I try to show you how Tata Nexon battery pack looks like, where it is mounted. So you can see it is mounted near the below part of the vehicle, right? And there is a high chance of water touching this part when you are going under some rain-prone area. But still, there is a lot of protection already embedded. It is already IP67 protected. Okay, so even water touches this part, there is no problem at all. Right, so this is what I meant by our drivetrain is not yet very mature. There is still a lot of opportunity to work on. This protection I talked about, you can actually do a lot of interesting protection, including IP protection and all. And some of you already raised several challenges due to battery charging, right? One of them is limited range. Then you cannot charge the battery faster. As I gave you an example, if you want to charge in a home, how long it takes, all these things. And some battery cannot take high current also for charging. So how do you solve this problem? Is there any opportunity? Yeah. So let's see. One is you can design your fast charger, right? You design a fast charger. That is a different area of research altogether. You design a battery swappable technique. So you don't let the driver or owner charge in their vehicle. You give them a removable battery pack. They go to the battery charging station, like a petrol station, right? And they change their discharge battery. So they hand over the discharge battery, they get a new battery, fully charged in the petrol station. So some of you already said that battery may get over it might build up temperature when charging, right? So in this kind of scenario, all the battery will be charged in a controlled environment, right? So they can lengthen the battery lifetime. Then there is a concept called wireless charging and dynamic wireless charging. What is it? When your vehicle is running on the road, can you charge it? Okay, so that is wireless charging, and it is dynamic. Dynamic because the vehicle is moving. So how it is done? Generally, from the AC power supply in your home or in the grid, you take it and pass it to a coil, transformer coil, one coil. This is called primary side coil in the road, inside road. Okay, and the secondary coil is mounted on your vehicle. So as you know how transformer works, basically there will be electromagnetic induction, secondary coil, there will be EMF induced, and using that you can charge your battery, right? So when the vehicle is moving, you can charge your battery. So these are some of the setup from Professor Regan Zain and Utah State University. So you can see how these coils are embedded inside the road tracks. They will be doing it. Then there is another way to do it. This is by a South Korean company. They're already designed this for an electric bus. So right, there's a special marked lane. It will go through it and it will charge. So all your range anxiety, those things can be reduced, right? So this is what a different how this challenge can be solved. You can get a different thing. Then range anxiety can be taken a little bit by providing an accurate range prediction. If you can predict with the charge left how much you will be able to go, then you know when where you have to charge, right? You can integrate with map and get a location of the nearby charger. Those things can be easily done. And instead of new battery, you can get, instead of lithium-ion battery, people are doing sodium battery now. A lot of research is going on the graphene, different material. This is also an interesting area to work on. And of course, still, if you're not happy, you can always have a hybrid solution. So you have a battery, you can also add petrol, right? Whenever you want to go, petrol is available. So your regular day-to-day commute, you run on the battery at lower maintenance or running cost. If you want to go long distance, you use petrol, right? Those kind of things you can do. So there is a solution to this problem. Right. Then availability of charging station, one of you rightly pointed out. India at present, as per my study, we had around 75. Now, I think less than 5K charging station available now. But this data, yeah, this is I mentioned. Approximately 3K, it is slightly backdated. Roughly now you can assume around 4 to 5K charging station. Whereas petrol station we have in our country is around 70K. If you want to adopt electric vehicle in a mass scale, you need around 4 lakhs of charging station. So what it gives you is a good business opportunity, right? Design and a business opportunity also. So how do you plan where to put those battery chargers strategically to get most out of it? And then it makes a lot of business sense. Then another problem with this electric vehicle is that they still dependent on electricity. And how do you generate electricity in country like India? Most of them come from thermal power plants, right? They still have pollution. So how do you solve it? You integrate more renewable energy. Again, a good research and commercial opportunity, right? One of you said another point is that, see, all this electric vehicle, finally they will take power from the electricity grid. And that's how our electricity grid is going to be heavily loaded. Imagine thousands of electric vehicle charging at the same time, right? It may overload our grid. So how do you tackle this issue? How do you plan accordingly? That itself is a good area to work on. I think this part I'll skip due to shortage of time, but I'll be sharing in the slides. Then this point I already discussed with you. We need rare earth magnet for permanent magnet, BLDC motor or PMSM motor. So then we have to depend on countries like China, etc., China, Brazil, right? So if you want to avoid, you have to design a motor which your country can sustain, right? We have material, using them, can we design a good quality motor? That is this kind of solution you can do. Then in this SOIRM, as I said, one of the interesting area to work on is ferrite assisted or permanent magnet assisted motor. But those permanent magnet need not be rare earth magnet. It can be a ferrite magnet which is available in India, right? So you can design a ferrite based motor. Then again, similar problem with lithium ion, right? Again, you will see China's monopoly in this area, lithium-ion reserve, but there are several initiatives being taken in Indian context also. For example, in Gujarat, already a setup is being developed. Okay, so these are some other things. And this is what I feel is even a higher challenge is that nowadays, if you own a petrol or diesel vehicle, you know if something goes wrong, you can go to any garage nearby and you will be able to sort it out, right? But think about it, you are driving an electric vehicle and something went wrong with the motor controller. So your local garage will never be able to repair it, right? Most unlikely at the present stage. So to get a skilled manpower or workforce at local level, right, that itself is a very big challenge. You have to, it will take a lot of time to develop these things. Otherwise, your vehicle, you won't be able to repair it easily. You have to send it to Tata Motors or Maruti Suzuki or someone else, right? That is a big problem. And think about it, all these India targets that by year 2030, we should have all electric vehicle. In fact, by 2023 and 2025, all two-wheeler and three-wheeler should be converted into electric vehicle. That is what the target is. Okay. So by 2025, all two-wheeler, three-wheeler should be converted to electric version, and all four-wheeler and other things, they should convert it to electric version by 2030. As a result, you see there are several automobile manufacturers, they are shifting entirely towards electric vehicle, and existing petrol engine or diesel engine based vehicles, they are incurring loss, etc. A lot of problem is going on. Now, let's say if it is strict enough that by 2020-30, all the IC engine vehicles should be scrapped, right? So what do you do with this waste material? We have so many IC engine vehicles, right? How do you scrap them? So what is the problem? Now, solution is that you can shift them, you can actually sell them to some other developing countries or underdeveloped countries where they are still not came up with electric vehicle policy like India or some other countries. So you can sell these vehicles to them. Then another interesting opportunity is actually you retrofit them. You have a IC engine vehicle, you retrofit it for electric vehicle, right? You replace the IC engine by a motor and okay. But do you think it is a easy job? What could be the challenge? Can one of you just or two, three of you can type in the chat box? What do you think? What is the main problem with retrofit? Is it easy? What could be the challenges? Space management, yeah. Transmission replacement, okay. Right. So you see, it is not very easy job. Right. Center of gravity shift. One more important point is this IC engine vehicles are deliberately made heavier. You know why? Because IC engine vehicle, these are a lot of vibrations are there. If you buy a petrol generator in a home or just try with IC engine, you see there's a lot of vibration, a lot of noise. So to subside that, IC engine vehicles are generally made heavier. But electric vehicle, on the other hand, I want it to be lighter weight. Otherwise, my motor rating has to go up, okay, and my battery size has to go up. All these problems are there. So it is not very a good solution to retrofit straightforwardly. There will be a lot of extra weight which you don't want, right? Yeah, car weight will be increased, exactly. A lot of problems are there. But still, if you can place intelligently, smartly, there is still an opportunity, right? So this is in scope. Then one of you rightly suggested all battery that we are using in electric vehicle, there is a concept called SOC, state of charge, another concept called SOH, state of health. Okay. Generally, when a new battery starts, I assume it is at 100% SOH. But you know, electric vehicle exposed to sudden charge, sudden discharge, right? Sudden braking, sudden acceleration. So battery life generally degrades faster. Typically, when this SOH falls around 70%, 75%, etc., they are not good enough for EV application, but still they are good enough for some other application. For example, stationary energy storage. Right? Let's say you have a solar power plant. You want to have energy storage according to it. So there you can use it. So this is known as second life use. Okay. And since you are getting a second life thing, maybe your cost will come down. So this is again a very interesting area to work on. How do you integrate such second life battery into a solar solution or wind energy and this, right? Another interesting challenge is now I know I have a petrol vehicle. If I want to sell it after 5 years, there will be some customer, right? Still they will buy. And I know roughly I'll get this much of amount if the vehicle is good. But what about electric vehicle? Is there anyone who would like to buy after 3-4 years from me if I want to sell it? It's not yet established, right? The battery life is a problem. If someone has to exchange the battery after a few years, then it is again a big cost. So, and also electric vehicle costs are coming down, right? So the vehicle I'm buying today, maybe Tata Nexon EV, it is 15 lakhs almost. Maybe after 5 year cost will be 10 lakh. But then if I want to sell my second-hand vehicle, I have to give it at a very throwaway price, right? So all this is again a big problem. And apart from that, this electric vehicle is heavily dependent on lithium-ion battery, right? As of now, but eventually, you know, lithium-ion will be they will finish, right? Whatever store we have, reserve we have. So then what we'll do? We have to go for alternate fuels, right? So that opens up a new research opportunity. And as I said, these fuel cell vehicles, these are coming up. They're basically based on hydrogen, right? Then you can have natural gas-based vehicles, CNG, LNG, liquefied petroleum good, right? This kind of solution. You can have a biodiesel. And for Indian perspective, you can have a ethanol or methanol kind of solution. So basically, you must have heard that those sugarcane people are not getting enough money. A lot of sugarcanes are getting wasted. So maybe you can utilize them to generate some alcohol-based fuel, and that you can use for running your vehicle. So that itself is a different area of research work, and again, it is coming up most probably. Yeah, almost I'm close to my end. So I'll just take 2-3 minutes and then maybe we'll open for discussion, right? So still what we understood is that there are several challenges and also there are several opportunities to work on it, right? This area is not yet saturated. And as of one of you rightly said, the cost is a big concern, right? Electric vehicle cost and mainly the battery cost is a big problem. So Indian government has already come up with solution like FAME, faster adoption of manufacturing electric vehicle, adoption and manufacturing of electric vehicle, and they're giving a lot of subsidies, incentives, etc. So you can go to this website, you can understand how much incentives you'll get. This is from central government. From state governments also, sometimes you'll get additional subsidy, etc. So this is how it can be reduced. Also, tax incentives you will get. Okay. And you know, GST also you're getting some loan. So there is this kind of opportunities are there. And Indian government, as I said, by 2025, all two-wheeler below 150cc should be converted into electric vehicle. So a lot of plannings are already there, and it is a good time to do research as well as commercial initiative in this area. So this slide I'll share you. You need not go through it now. This is again from a comparison for Tata Nexon EV. It is from Tata Motors, of course. You can also refine this data. So they said they compared their electric vehicle with diesel solution. Initially EV cost is more, but if you consider all the taxes, etc., which are borne by different government or FAME, etc., your reduction in GST, etc., you will see that the running cost is less because electricity price is still lesser than petrol. You know, petrol price is already going up. So if you compare all these things down the line of 3-4 years, they showed that it is quite comparable. Okay, but of course they need not consider battery replacement. That is that has to be added. Maybe after few years, battery will degrade and you have to replace the battery to something. So that will have an added cost. But Down the line of 3-4 years, you will see the cost difference is not very high, even though its initial cost is higher. And lithium ion battery price is also coming down, and that is a good sign that slowly maybe the vehicle cost will come down, right? And this is a chart where I try to show you, this from Wikipedia, that what are the planning of different countries when they want to shift to electric vehicle. So we are falling in this zone, right? We want to shift by 2030, we want to shift to electric vehicles. So similarly, there are several other countries in the world, you can see when they are planning to shift. So eventually, you see, slowly we are going towards electric vehicle. And some other challenges and opportunity I have noted down here for your reference. If you want to go through it, you can do so in your free time. So there are several interesting research problem or statement I have noted down. You can also add your views on this, and it can be a good thing. I'd just like to play a video. I'm not sure whether it will open up now. Then I'll wind up. So this is basically a Indian startup. They came up with a two-wheeler scooter. Right. So this is a IIT Delhi-based alumni-based startup, Ligar Mobility. They came up with a self-balancing electric scooter. So what is the benefit? You can understand your accident will be much reduced, right? So why I'm showing you is that, so similar interesting concept people can come up, and you see in Indian context, there are several interesting startups who are doing very wonderful job. Ether Energy is already a leader in the two-wheeler segment. Ola has disrupted it a little bit, but still Ether Energy is doing pretty good. In this is again IIT Madras alumni-based startup. And then this Ligar Mobility I talked about, and there are so many other, right? So why I'm showing you all this is that you can motivate your students or yourself also if you have an interesting idea, and this area can be a good area to do some startup and do some commercial approach also. So with this, let me stop. Some part I could not cover, but I'll share you the slides. And right now we can discuss for 5-10 minutes. It is 1 o'clock almost in my watch, so maybe 10 minutes. And but still, if you have any query, if you want to have some research collaboration, in case you are visiting to IIT Kharagpur, please do write a mail to me in this, and please get connected through LinkedIn also. Okay. Here is my link I've given for my publication, etc. You can see Google Scholar if you're interested. And slowly I'm trying to strengthen my YouTube channel also. So this is my YouTube channel where I started doing little bit on the experimental videos, some topic, theoretical topic, etc. So maybe you can suggest me some topic which I can cover up. And I want to make this YouTube channel to go to strength slowly. So maybe you can help me in this. Do visit it if your time permits, and let me suggest what else topic or what thing we can do, right? So with this, a very big thank to all of you for bearing with me for last 1 hour patiently. And now I'm open to question. If you want to discuss anything, please type in the chat box. And as I said, if something is left, please write an email to me. I can share you the slides. There are so many other things I could not discuss. For example, some of the interesting vehicle concept I wanted to discuss, but due to shortage of time, I could not do. See, there are so many interesting vehicle concepts, right? So this may be some other day I'll discuss, but else I'll be sharing your slides. Okay, thank you very, very much. And if you have any question, I'll be happy to answer. Thank you. You can type in the chat box, or if you have any question, you can mute also, unmute. I'm not sure. I could not hear any participant. Is it disabled? is the interaction links are disabled? I mean, can they ask question? I am trying to ask to the organizing team. Are they allowed to unmute mic? Because I could not hear anything from the audience. Hello, am I audible?
They can put the questions in the chat box, sir.
Okay, okay. But they are, okay, they cannot unmute.
Yeah.
Okay, is there any question in the chat box?
Is there any question? If there is any question, you can please put the questions in chat box. Let me read it out so that the professor will answer the questions. You think scarcity of material will affect the era of electric vehicles? One is asking.
Yeah, this is a very good question. It is already affecting. I'm doing a project on three-wheeler electric vehicle with the Ministry of Information Technology. There we build a BLDC motor and a motor controller with some advanced feature. We patented it also. I mean, applied, not yet granted. And we mounted it on e-rickshaw and we are testing it. But still, see, main problem is getting the permanent magnet. If something goes wrong with China or Brazil, you don't get much of them. That is a big issue. In Indian government is increasing the tax on this imported component, right? So cost is going up. Then semiconductor material, the motor controller, battery charger, everywhere we need to depend on a lot of semiconductor material. And India, we don't manufacture them, right? So how do you get them? You have to order it to depend on the external supply. And recently, due to the COVID, this almost all this key import component, their delivery time was delayed. In fact, the PCB manufacturing was delayed, and our project was delayed due to that, one of the reasons. So these are actually affecting, and that's why I said the research. If you can design motor based on what material we have in India, for example, we have abundant of steel, right? We have ferrite, we have copper also. So why I need to entirely depend on rare earth magnet material? I can do it a different motor design, right? So that is how people like you can contribute, and you can actually support these several schemes of government like Atmanirbhar Bharat or Make in India, right? And yeah.
Another question is, Mr. Mohan is asking, battery swap or increased range for charge, which will be better option for India?
Battery swapping, as of now, it is not yet matured yet, right? In India, only I think IOCL and Sun Mobility tied up, and few stations are working. But as a commercial level, it is yet to be popular. Only in Thailand or I think Taiwan, 2-3 successful attempts are there. But overall, this battery swapping is not yet very popular. It has a lot of complexity in the business model, in the execution. So as of now, it appears that people are going for increasing the battery capacity as much as possible. Battery swapping is not the highest focus as of now. That's what I can see from the market.
Okay, thank you, sir. So next question is, what is the prospect of a solar powered vehicle?
Okay.
Side-by-side research in efficient solar cell is required.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually need at least half an hour to give you all the calculation. This is a very important question. But let me ask you, I mean, those who ask this question, let us say if I give you this vehicle, it's a solar car. What do you think if it is in India and it is not charged externally, it is entirely on solar? What do you think, what will be the average kilometer per day you can travel with this vehicle in Indian context? Any idea? Can you give me? What I'm saying is that you cannot charge the battery externally. You can charge only using solar. So per day, how many kilometers you can travel on an average? You can understand, right? In winter season, you cannot get much, or monsoon, you cannot get much, right? So on average, okay, one answer I got 20 kilometers. One answer is got 40. Any other number? Maybe 50. Okay. Okay. So since we don't have much time, I'll stop taking answer. What analysis we did for Kolkata? Because I'm from Kharagpur now, and we did a average study for Kolkata-based irradiation, which is available in internet, and we figured out that for this kind of vehicle, at max we'll be able to go around 25 to 30 on average. Okay, and that in fact you can verify from this is actually Germany-based car. So they are also claiming around 30 kilometers. Okay, only on solar. So you can understand this is not a very good option, right? You have to integrate with some other option, but still solar can give you something. And this is an interesting challenge for solar vehicle. There's an interesting event that goes on. Maybe you can also try participate.
Sir, one more question, sir. Thank you. One more question, sir. While various vehicle manufacturers are independently developing, are there nationwide charging battery capacity standards?
Yeah, that is again a big problem. Every manufacturer want to design their own thing. There is difficult to get an unanimous kind of approach, because that they won't get a better business model, right? If everyone is developing the same thing, then why I should buy a Tata car? Why not a Maruti car, or why not a MG garage car, right? And this is a big problem.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. If there's no question, then we will come to the concluding session, concluding remarks. I hope.
Yeah.
Is there any question? Otherwise, we will come to the conclusion. Yes, sir. I think there's no further questions. So first, I thank Dr. Dibakar Devnath for having accepted our invitation to deliver the lecture on electric vehicles opportunity. So thank you, sir, for sparing your wonderful time with us. And yeah, the session is more informative and interactive. Many people have mentioned in the chat box that the session is very, very useful and informative. And you have thrown more light on research areas also. You have mentioned that there is a possibility for doing research in the switch reluctance motor with the PMSM, and you also showed that there is a better opportunity doing research in the area of new battery technology using sodium, graphene, or carbon nanotube, cobalt-free battery, aluminum, air, etc. So you have given a lot of input to the researchers, those who are doing research in the area of electric vehicles and battery management and the motors, particularly those who are doing in the area of electrical field. So the session is very useful, and you have covered from the history of automobiles, and you have mentioned advantages and disadvantages of electric vehicles and the challenges posed by the electric vehicles. You have listed out in different categories like part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. Enormous input you have given to us. I hope the people, the faculty members who are attending the sessions will take more input from your session, sir. And you also mentioned about the type of motors, which type of motor is more suitable for the present electric vehicles. And you mentioned that permanent magnet synchronous motor is used in almost in all the electric vehicles. Second is the induction motor. And you told that BLDC, brushless DC motor for low torque, that is less than 5 kilowatt. So that can be used for two-wheelers. And you have mentioned about motor and motor controller, design of battery charger. You have given one problem assignment also for the faculty members, for the participants. That is very useful, and they have come out with some solution how to design a battery charger. And wheel motor, that is another challenging research area. So many research topics, research problem statements you have given to the people, those who are doing the research will be very, very useful. And how to come out with the problems in the future. And you have told that for the IC vehicles, by 2030, the Indian government is going to scrap the IC engines. So that time, what methods, what remedial action we have to initiate? For that also, we've given solutions like selling our vehicles to the other countries which they have not implemented, and the retrofit mechanism. So you have given many input regarding the electric vehicles challenges and opportunities. The session is very, very useful, sir. Once again, I thank you on behalf of the team and from Department of Mechanical Engineering. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Pleasure is all mine. I could interact with so many participants, and they are very enthusiastic. They answered several those queries I raised, and I think I really enjoyed this session. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. And I reiterate that if you happen to visit any one of you and Kharagpur or nearby area, please do visit our lab. We'll have a good interaction. We can also talk about the research collaborations, right? So with this, thank you very much for attending this. I wish you all the luck for your next next lectures and also in whatever you do in your life. Thank you.
Thank
So
you very
with
much,
this,
sir.
I'll